What up, guys? Today we have a question from Dan, who is a high school and college wrestler getting into jiu-jitsu. And so naturally, he sends the Chewster the message and says, Chewy, what advice would you give to wrestlers starting out in BJJ? So Dan, thanks for the question, bro. And so to get right into it, I would tell you to go to the place that no wrestlers want to go in the beginning, which is playing off your back and learning how to play guard. Now, that's the TLDR version, right? If you guys don't want to watch the video because you have no attention span, it's been destroyed by TikTok, that's fine. For the rest of you guys, here's the reasons why. Number one, as a wrestler getting into jiu-jitsu, a lot of times I'm guilty of this too. Okay, I wasn't even a great wrestler. I was a high school wrestler that was like moderately decent. But when I got into jiu-jitsu, I identified with being a wrestler, right? I was a wrestler doing jiu-jitsu, right? You have to lose that. You're no longer a wrestler. If you're not wrestling in college and high school, whatever, you're not a wrestler anymore. That is someone you used to be. You're now a guy that has good takedowns and you have wrestling ability, right? And you can use that in jiu-jitsu, but you have to be open-minded. And a lot of times, us identifying with this idea that I'm a wrestler can limit us, because then we don't want to learn how to play certain positions because we're like, well, I'll just take the guy down. Yeah, we'll talk about it in a second, but not always, right? And so you want to be able to play off your back because you want to shred this identity that you used to have. You are now a submission grappler. You're now a jiu-jitsu practitioner. You're not a wrestler anymore. And so learning how to play guard, I think, is like, it's almost submitting to the art, right? Just like we submit people, we're now submitting ourselves to this art. And we're saying, you know what? I'm not a wrestler anymore. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner. So that's number one. That's a big one, right? It's both a technical and a mental thing going on at the same time. The second thing to consider is that unless you were the NCAA champion or an Olympic champion, you're probably going to get taken down at some point. You're probably not always going to be the best wrestler. You know, I mean, there's a few guys in jiu-jitsu that could say, you know, I'm probably going to be able to get the takedown almost every time. There's only a few of them, right? Everybody else is like, well, I'm going to be able to get the takedown most of the time, but these guys are still going to kill me, right? And when you watch a lot of these guys that are so takedown focused that they never develop a bottom game, when they get taken down by one of these better wrestlers, they're just done. They're cooked. They have no options. You don't want to be that guy. You want to have a well-rounded, versatile game so that no matter where you find yourself, whether you get swept or you get taken down, if you find yourself on your back, you have options, right? Huge, super important. Seen so many guys get into jiu-jitsu where they're like, they just want to do takedowns and a couple submissions and then they get put on their back and they're completely like fish out of water. They're dead. And the last reason I would tell you to play from your back, Dan, is that when you learn how to play off of your back, you now know what the people are doing, right? In the beginning, when you come into it, you have no idea what the person's doing in the bottom. So they catch in all these weird submissions and things like that because you're not ready for it. When you learn how to play off of your back, you start to learn what these people are doing when they're using it against you. So even if you want to be a top player, you still want to learn how to play the bottom because you want to know what your opponents are doing. So if they're going underneath of you with a hook or a false reap, you know how that particular grip works so that you can defend against it, or so that you can understand it and recognize it sooner. If they're going for a particular arm bar or choke or whatever, you understand how they're setting these things up, which will give you a better sense of when you need to be worried about it, right? This is one of the things that I noticed in my own game. Like, as I got better from playing off of my back, my guard passing and survivability on top went way up because I knew what they were doing down there. It wasn't so foreign to me. And so those would be three big reasons to try to encourage you that when you're starting off in jiu-jitsu, don't have the wrestler mindset of like, I got to smash everybody, take down. That's great. You need that. You can use it in competition. All that stuff's great. But we are jiu-jitsu practitioners when we come into the room, right? Learn how to play off your back. I guarantee it'll make your game better and it will give you a more well-rounded game. And you'll probably find, as I did begrudgingly so later on, that when I started getting good off the back, I actually had a lot of fun with it. It gave me a lot more options to play, gave me a lot more options as far as things to experiment with and techniques to play with. So again, just an idea to chew on, brother. Hopefully that helps you, Dan. I'll talk to you guys next time.